Greetings everyone. Recently I did a video where I drew this, which is kind of like my version, I guess, of a Woodland Sprite. And I thought, well, let's kind of return to that, and just for fun, see if there's anything else that can be done with that. Now, I did use fun little flowers like this as references. Of course, here are some of their leaves, which I think are pretty neat looking too. And I also had, let's see here, one of these helicopter seeds, or Samsara, I guess, as Leo would have pointed out. But anyway, this comes from a maple tree. Elm also have seeds like that. And I saw this as well, which is a stick. You can find these just little twigs that fall off trees after the wind and heavy rain. You can get them where they might have moss on them. Or anyway, so I'm going to open up my inkwell here and then grab my fountain pen and, I don't know, just start scratching out some ideas. Now typically when I do my doodles, I like to start with the eyes. But I think with this one, we're just going to zoom in a little bit, get it to focus on the pen just enough. See if I can lock that down so that I don't stay too blurry for too long. Okay, let's see how this goes. Yeah, I'm going to treat this a little bit differently. Maybe, kind of maybe do the body a little bit first. And that way I can kind of plan out how I want certain things to be. But because I do most of this in pen, I don't really like to do this too often. But it's good to, I guess. So let me say that much at least. I don't want this to be too thick of a body. This is just a little sprite. Now, of course I use a water-soluble ink, so I might be able to get away with blurring a few things after the fact. Now I had this as 3 main fingers. And how do I want that other leg? So if that's the hip here, I'll probably thin out the body a little bit too. We'll see. I want it to have kind of a large head. Now, how do we want to use this? Holding down here, holding up here. I kind of want there to be like a staff. And let's say holding about there. You know what, instead of the thumb going that way, let's have, no, we'll wrap the thumb around, so. So that's kind of what I'd like to see. Maybe have, yeah. So I don't know, I think that a sprite is kind of like a protector of nature in the woods. You probably wouldn't just haphazardly pick plants. Unless perhaps it was for snacks. But I can kind of imagine that they would talk to the plant in some way first and just say, can I have some of this? And maybe the plant would be like, oh yes, enjoy some of this delicious fruit, if that's a possibility. Now, because of the way I drew the head, I wonder if I could have it a little more face on or looking that way. And maybe, just maybe, I'll put those like pretend wings on as well. And maybe, just maybe, use some more of that flower. Well, I kind of like the way I did the eyes the last time, where they're tilted up just a little bit. Let's put in the ears. We'll make them a little bit more kind of elf-like. It will narrow out the jaw just a little bit. I'll have it looking a little bit happy. Kind of a high eyebrow. Now, I did say that we were going with the thumb like that. And we'll make this kind of the hat again. Because, yeah, I kind of like the look of that in some way. Little flowers. There. We had a fallen leaf as a top, with a little bit of overhang there. Skirt of sorts. I wonder, we have these to use as little wings. For our creature friend. We're going to pretend that this sprite doesn't fly, but likes to maybe pretend. Or if they do fly, they don't really need the wings. Perhaps they can move on gusts of wing. I think the wind could move a small creature And maybe it's some sort of magic. I don't know. I like to look at magic as, well, kind of something that is a technology that's unknown. So, kind of a manipulation of the forces around you. Now, is that always the best way to view magic? I don't know, but I'd like to think that it's perhaps an agreement between you and nature, or the unseen, that allows you to manipulate certain things. But as I said, maybe it's an agreement. Now, I do have this knee that's going to be blocking some of that arm. Now, the last time we drew little boots, I'll think about that a little bit more. I may not do that. That's sort of the cape part of that leaf. Yeah, definitely made the legs a lot thicker, I suppose. Sometimes you just kind of draw out of habit. And let's say the torso is kind of wrapped in something. I don't know yet what that could be. Because let's say the creature is well aware of sticky things like honey or sap, and doesn't really want to have to fight with that too much on their little bodies. Let's say spider webs too. Let's add some detail to the face, I think. Let's zoom in. See if we can lock that down just enough. Now, I don't know, language-wise, how they would speak. Do they mimic birds? Do they have the ability to communicate telepathically? I don't know. Tinkerbell didn't really talk, but you knew through movement and intention. don't know. It's fun to think about, though. It's kind of fun to think about where you think stories come from. You know, are they meant to tell the origin of little creatures? Are they meant to warn us about things? I think sometimes, you know, those are the lessons that we are taught, is through stories. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, we have this arm over here. Again, I think I drew this rather robust. Now I'm just kind of doing some version of semi-finish work. Smooth out some of those rough little lines that I did. Move that down just a little bit. Technically I moved that up, but to stay within range, I guess. Go back. Now I did use this, so I'm not going to make it exactly like it, but I'm going to be very close, I hope, because I like the way it looks. Almost like it has little burls. Which in some ways, in nature, kind of like when you think of how pearls are made, sometimes a fungus can, you know, inflict some damage on a living thing and it tries to protect itself. Sometimes it can be almost like a virus or a metastasizing abnormality. That can cause a funny growth on a tree. Let's extend the, yeah, let's go a little bit higher with that staff, because I kind of like the look of that. Where it was broken off. Interesting. Interesting color too. Now, let's work on the Samsara wings. What if we did some sort of like scrolly kind of works on that? Maybe a slight wraparound, an upper bicep bracelet. The bracelets are worn around the wrist. What would you call that sort of decoration? I probably know that somehow. I just have to think about it. What do you call... Well, maybe it is just a bracelet. That gives me the opportunity to thin out the arm just a little bit. Now let's see what we can do with this knee. Now, I still haven't decided if I want to put boots or barefoot. Well, let's go with the boot style thing again. A little curled up toe. You know, if I really wanted to, I guess I could make some Chuck Taylors out of them. It's a little extreme. Good old Chuck Taylors. The other pair. The other shoes there. The other shoe. Now let's go back to this part of the costume. Just outline it a little bit. I do believe we are kind of done with the main doodle of what I kind of expected out of this. Let's just bring it out a little bit and lock it in without too much camera shake. That's better. All right, grab my detailing brush, a little bit of water, see if I can kind of smooth out a couple of things, kind of ruin other things at the same time. always my intention to ruin things, but it can just happen. I usually have some tissue around as well to draw away some that is weird. Okay. So I'm going to add a bit more water to this and hopefully be able to draw away some of that darkness. If not, that's okay, we can live with it. A little bit in here. A little bit here in the shoes. And I can go back in after if I need to and add some detail back in. When I have projects that I'm working on, I often will listen to music. And it's not typical of me to talk when I'm working on things. I suppose if I were so crafty, I would find music for my uploads, but the reason why I'm talking out loud is so you kind of know what I have going on in my head at the same time as I'm doing this. Nothing more than that, really. Using water on this ink is kind of fun. Kind of gives you the opportunity to shade a little bit too. Now, for whatever this arm decoration thing is there, do a little splash on this upper part of the staff. A little bit up here as well. We'll keep the contrast of the moss that grows. this part of the flower. So yes, what are your thoughts on magic? Do you kind of view it in a similar way that I do, that it's just an unknown technology of sorts, something that allows you a type of control? It's an interesting idea, I think. Just kind of finessing some brushwork in there before I revisit it. I don't think I'll do that much more with the face, but we'll say that the creature is almost done. And then the final thing will be just to go back over set aside the cup, bring out my sketchbook fountain pen. We'll do the final kind of detail, and then we'll be done. So if you have an idea of what name the creature might have, feel free to comment. If you're drawing along and doing something similar, you can let me know what name you've chosen for your own. That's fun. But I like that twig. That staff seems kind of neat. A couple little petals off to one side. almost done. But yes, it's those final details that can kind of make or break your little projects. Although not a tremendous concern for your sketchbook. At least I don't think you should worry about it that much for your sketchbook. I kind of like that. Final detailing of this wing. Up here, go right. So I do hope that you practice writing in cursive, because it's an art form. And I think it's important to not lose certain art forms. Now, of course, we live in a time where it's easy to rely on computers. And of course, you have computers that you can take with you on your adventures, and camera phones that you can take with you on your adventures. And you can capture those things, but sometimes a pen and paper is just awesome enough on its own. And that way you can capture a little bit of your imagination, which technology can do, of course. But well, I think that's it. I think 40 minutes is fine for what we were wanting to do with this. So, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out, and perhaps we'll see you at some point in the near future. And yeah, well, I think that's kind of fun. Yeah, let me know in the comments what name you would give this creature, and that's it.